Good morning, creative people. I actually researched that when I looked at the speakers online, and that's what they said, so I thought I would start out that way. This is an amazing space, actually. It gives me a lot of confidence. And I feel honored to be up here to reflect on my story about the risks that I've taken. And it's actually very, almost emotional, because the sacrifice that was put onto my family and myself, and I'm kind of reflecting all that right now, and I feel like I'm taking another risk just being up here. It's making me feel uncomfortable, but it's mind over matter. And when you surround yourself in a great environment, you just overcome those moments, like right now. Thank you. So I want to show a little video just so you understand my story of where I come from and some of the things that I've made a connection with. I have a restaurant. Yes, it's risky, but I've actually taken it further. And I think it's just, risk is about curiosity. And I want to show this video so you understand me. And when I tell my story, you're going to kind of relate with me a little bit more and understand who I am and where I come from. Foraging to me is a reminder of where I grew up, at Cournoyer. I like to go foraging because I'm curious to find new flavors of our landscape. I like to take a walk in the woods and actually just smell the air. That gives a lot of inspiration because we know ingredients that we're looking for, but sometimes there's smells that are unfamiliar. Each day it could be different. One of my most memorable experiences of being in the woods and gathering some things was the forest floor. I would just look at the simple moss, the green moss with last year's forest floor, so that could be leaves, pine needles. I was thinking of Algonquin Park around a lake, and then I thought of fish. And one of the dishes that is a staple in the fall time for Cournoyer is forest floor tea with just steamed rainbow trout, and it's amazing. And that's kind of a connection that was put together very quickly from just walking in the woods. Right now we're just foraging within 2 to 3 hours of Toronto, which is where Cournoyer is located. It is challenging to get to these places and bring it back to the restaurant. At the moment, my curiosity wants to go further, but it can't. It's just restricted to the running of the business, and it's pretty demanding. I think as I get more experienced with the cuisine that we're doing, it'll allow me more time to adventure basically all over the world. That would be an amazing opportunity. So I need 2 people out here to come up and take a risk right now. Please? Come on. So you've had your coffee this morning?
I did.
Now you're going to try some of the forest floor that you've seen in the video. Basically what we have here is some lichen. It's an edible moss, and we've topped it with some sour cream and some juniper oil. This ingredient here actually inspired risk for me. It was probably the second risk that I took with relation to the restaurant, but it's a connection, as you can see, where I come from, and my curiosity to discover our landscape and kind of push in a different direction, which wasn't so familiar to myself and actually any restaurant that I ever known that was in Canada or that I've ever worked at. So just pick it up, and I want you to try it. It's very delicate.
It looks beautiful.
What do you think? I heard wow. What do you think? It reminds me of almost shredded wheat. So it is, early in the morning. So I think it's suiting. But this is an ingredient that I first gathered and I had a connection to, and we now offer it to every guest that comes into the restaurant. And for me, it's asking the customer to take a little risk and to be challenged. And it's really important, I think, so that they just understand when they're coming into the restaurant, they're getting something a little bit different. Thank you very much for trying that out.
Thank you. That's nice.
You're welcome.
I like the texture.
Could I have the building? Yeah. So this is the restaurant. My wife and I, we purchased it. And I didn't actually take this risk. She did. Claudia, she's right here with the pink on in the front. And I come from a family that is 9 to 5. I grew up in a small town up in Actinolite. And, you know, my parents would put their RSPs away, very safe. I have no business training, never went to school for any kind of business. She comes from a family with that have a business, and she's self-employed. She's an entrepreneur. She basically took me up the cliff. She knew I had a vision to have a restaurant and told me to jump. And I said, she's crazy. The first thing we did is we were purchasing this for our family upstairs. Look at this building. We were starting a family. We had our son, Toby, and we had to build a place for us to live first off. And also, this was going to be the restaurant below. It was very challenging because, I didn't want any investors. I didn't want any partnerships. It's a small restaurant. You have small margins, and that's what I knew. She had the entrepreneurship to go out there and just make it happen, but I knew you needed a strong, strong foundation to make this happen. So that as things went further, we answered ourselves. We were in total control. It's very, very important. So we started to fix up the building. We needed to build our home. We spent all our money just on the purchase, and then now we had to build a restaurant, and that was very challenging. I made many business plans, changed them. I went to the bank twice, and at this time, the financial crisis kind of hit in the States, and basically high-risk restaurants off the list. So I already submitted my application, and it was at the underwriter when this happened. So it was a huge setback. And finally, we found someone that understood us, and they understood that we had the purchase of the building, and we had a dream. And because on paper, with Claudia being self-employed, it didn't look like we could support a restaurant financially. But what he told us to do is put the money into the building as much as you can and build up the equity within the building to finance the restaurant. And that was amazing advice, and that was amazing support at that time. So I was working in restaurants, Susur restaurant, that's where I got my main training. I was there for 4 years. And at this point, when we purchased this, I stepped away from the restaurant. And that was a very hard decision because I had this dream, and the only way to make it happen was I went to work with my wife. She was working for the Food Network, doing Top Chef, and she does Chopped. But I went behind the scenes and was kind of like the kitchen manager. But it allowed me to have more time, and I was making a little bit more money than working in the kitchen. And what it allowed me to do is actually build this place very hands-on. But at the same time, stepping away was so challenging. I saw my friends, my peers, taking sous chef jobs, taking chef jobs, and I kind of just put myself in my own bubble and focused on building this restaurant, as well as having a job of working in consulting. It took us 5 years to build this place. One step at a time. We had to dig out the basement. We improved the outside of the building. Then we got the financing for the restaurant. And then I was a little bit more aggressive. But what I realized is building it in this manner with this hands-on approach was like natural evolution. I almost compare it to the way I would think of a dish. Sometimes you get an idea and you go with it, but you have to live with it a bit, and then you get a better idea, and that kind of supports it. It was just like stripping back the walls and seeing the brick. It was a really beautiful evolution that this place was transforming into. You can't see it right now, but I was starting to feel like it was amazing, actually. And I remember a week before we opened, I was in the restaurant, and I looked at it and I was like, holy shit, this is beautiful. And it was beyond my expectations of what I thought for the restaurant. I didn't even know what I was going to cook, because when I looked at the restaurant, I saw that it was so beautiful. I stepped out of the kitchen for so long. I put all my technique, all my cooking senses in a jar, and it was like there was a lid on it. Now I had to express myself with my food, and I was so far behind, I felt like. I had so little confidence, and I had to open. So basically, I got open. It was very challenging to find staff because I was so far removed, 4 years removed from the industry. And I found my staff, and I got open. I opened an a la carte menu in the neighborhood, because the restaurant is in a neighborhood. And one second, guys. I'm just trying to go through my thoughts. I was cooking food that I was taught, though. And I kind of did this backwards. Most chefs would go away, work at an amazing restaurants worldwide, get all the information so they could come back and have a clear view. I was just cooking from the past, but I built this beautiful place that I felt I had to grow into. And within the first 4 months, I started to find myself, and it was I was cooking and I was learning every day. It was so challenging, but I started to get a connection to who I am by building relationships with my farmers and getting to know my landscape, like the lichen, and it started to change. We were successful. We got great reviews, but I was curious. I still wanted more. I feel like there was more out there for me. And so 6 months passed by. I was getting more of an identity of what I wanted to do. I was so curious to explore more of the landscape, and it was challenging, though. Every day was so challenging. It was so new. So what I did is, after I opened, I brought myself up to speed. Like I said, it was a successful business within the first 6 months, but I wanted to take another leap of faith here. I actually went to, on our break, we went to Copenhagen, my son and I, and this is a country that was inspired by Rene Redzepi, the owner of Noma restaurant, and he was cooking from the landscape, and this is the direction that I was going. Some of the people that started to attract to the restaurant were bringing new ideas to me. They were foraging, along with me going up to a Kinnelite and getting connected. And going over there, I wanted to learn a little bit more about what this food was about cooking from your landscape. It just made sense. So when I went up there, I realized that some of the dishes that we were actually doing it within the restaurant were on par. I didn't eat at Noma, but within Copenhagen, there's many restaurants that just branched off into that style, that philosophy. And I don't think no one was doing it here in Canada or in Toronto. And I had a connection to what their philosophy was. And basically, it's just looking back into time and following that. So after eating there, I had a little more confidence. And I feel that what I needed to do is commit to cooking in this way. What I learned when I ate there was you had to honor the ingredients a bit more. They all had set menus, and it just made sense that if I was to cook with this relationship to the farmers, with so amazing ingredients, that you had to honor them. So I came back to the restaurant. Claudia was working on a TV show because that's why I had my son there. And I just rewrote a new menu, and we set the menu, and that's a big thing, which I didn't think it was that big, but for Toronto, having a set menu is taking away choice. But I knew it was the right thing to do if I wanted to follow this path. I came back and think, who would do this actually? Think of who would just change your business overnight. One minute, think we're selling IBM, the next day we're selling Macs. That's basically what happened. The customers were coming into the restaurant that they were at before, and they absolutely loved it. They kept that's why they were back. And they walked in and they were, what is this? You've taken, what kind of menu is this? And I was kind of naive about the whole situation. I was just like following the right thing to do. Isn't that what you do? You follow your guts, follow your initiative. And that's me. I don't really think about the other aspects if you're following your intuition. And it was a big wake-up call for me because the customers that were coming in were walking out. And we were losing money. And eventually I had to go out and try to convince people to stay within the restaurant to eat. And that was very uncomfortable. It's strange though, because the 5% of people that did stay and eat were telling me, you have to stick with this. This is amazing. And I haven't experienced anything like this. It was so much more demanding on myself and my family. There was so much more stress put upon us. I had to fire my manager. He didn't have experience with running a restaurant with this philosophy. Everything was enlightened. We had more dishes. The dishwasher was busier. We had to phone people to talk about like dietary restrictions. There's so many more details that affected the business, and I didn't have the experience with this either. But what I was gaining here is I was learning about our seasons. I was learning about where my food comes from, and but you know what? It was so stressed because Claudia, basically I turned the restaurant, shook it upside down, and we needed to rebrand ourselves. And I didn't ask her, she just knew that she had to do that. And she has her normal job. And that was very challenging at the time because it was a lot of stress. I have another baby on the way. And that was something that naively I made this decision to follow my heart, what I believe in. But I didn't even realize the effect that it could have within everyone around me. And that's taking risk. My curiosity was being driven, though, again, and I just wanted to keep this up. But the daily demands, I remember upstairs I have kids, downstairs I have staff that is stressed because of all the changes. I was so overwhelmed, so overworked, so overtired. I would go down the street, sleep in the car during the day because I felt like I had no place to go. I remember it was my turn, not my turn, but on Sundays, it's a day off, taking my son to the park and not even being there really because I was so stressed out mentally. And I was hating it. I remember calling my friend. He was looking for a restaurant. I'm like, have it. This sucks. Seriously. It was like, I'm very emotional as I speak about it right now. Because especially with kids, they need me to be around them, and I wasn't even there. I was so stressed out. But like I said, this takes, with anything, it was like the first year of the restaurant I had to learn so much, and I was through that, and I had to do it all over again, but I was learning. I was so uncomfortable, but learning is everything. I was driven by my curiosity. So time went by again, and I'm learning all these, building all these relationships, like I said. And then we got an amazing review. And the review was by the Globe and Mail. It was Chris Nuttall Smith, probably the most essential review that you could get in the country. It was very important. And they said that we were the most essential place to eat in Ontario, if not Canada. At that time, that was very helpful for us. So we got busy instantly, but at the same time, the stress that was put on the kitchen and my staff and myself, within 2 weeks of that review, I had one of my sous chefs just walk out. He couldn't handle the stress. I feel like he was giving up. And then 2 months later, another head guy left. And I felt like I was on my own going through this. I had to rebuild my team. 1 second, guys, I just need a drink. What I learned there is that as a business, you want to hire the most capable person. Obviously, all you guys would be like, if you want to build your business on paper, let's get them together. But what I learned is the most important is that they have the ethics and values that you believe in. And that's the most important thing. My team today, they're right up here, actually, and they are my support along with my wife, Claudia. If you knew about my week this week, we talk about restaurants and risk. Well, this week is probably one of the most important weeks for the restaurant within the last year. We're doing an event. I talked about Noma. They're doing a documentary with hot dogs. And on Sunday, we're doing a meal. After the people go see hot dogs with the Noma documentary in Tokyo, they're coming next door, and for 160 people, we're going to do a meal that reflects the Canadian landscape. So it's very important for us this week. But on Sunday, as we're going up to grab the forest floor, I get a call from Alarm Force saying that there's a smoke detector going off. And right on the 401, I almost took people off the road, and they said that there's a fire. So I called Claudia. She's upstairs with my 2 children, and I get her to go downstairs, and she said there's smoke. I almost freak out. This is on Sunday. And basically we go back. All of the fire department is there. A laundry machine that was turned off started on fire. So this is this week. And I have to work on this speech, and I'm dealing with fire department, insurance, fish that is getting delivered for last night for the event that isn't good, and we have to get it sent back. This is a restaurant week. This is the week that everyone knows out there, everything happens at once. Well, it's happening this week, so I hope I'm doing an okay job, because I tried to write a speech, but I basically couldn't write it properly. This is how I work. I don't really write things down. I just go for it, and I hope it's reflecting here. I think you can feel my energy, my passion. But basically, my team that I have now it's about respect. They respect me, and I respect them. And building a team, the most important thing I think in a business is your team. And if you respect, for me, if you respect each and other's weaknesses and use their strengths to benefit everybody, that is true team. You need respect for one another. And they allow me to take more time with my family. In the past, I used to try to do too much. I wanted to gain that respect. I would clean the stove late at night. I would do as much as I could to fit into the team, because this is what I knew. Even with this restaurant, it was the first time being chef and an owner all at once. So you can tell, I've told you how overwhelmed I was throughout the way, and I still am sometimes. But they allow me to walk upstairs, try to get to sleep early, so when I wake up in the morning, I have time for my family, and they know that if I'm happy with my family and I walk into work and I show my passion and my happiness, that it's going to be a better day. And I'm the leader of that. And I have to. That's part of my job as a business owner or a chef. I'm very happy with everyone. Thank you. But there's more. There's more that in the last year, I've learned so much with relationships to our food, and I'm kind of hooked on seasonal, local food. And what I mean by that is it's so important to support a sustainable food system. That's the bigger picture here. The restaurant for me is a vehicle to share my values of what I've learned about food and family and friendship through the restaurant, but there's a bigger picture that I want to express to everyone what I've been learning. And that's really, where does our food come from? If we eat locally, we support communities, and I come from a small town where the communities are falling apart, and because there's no jobs, but I feel like through food we could really bring things back on that scale, and we are what we eat. We have a farmer named Andrew, and he's so inspiring to me. He's a visionary. He has a plan for his farm for 100 to 200 years. And basically, we took the guys out. What we do right now is we do projects on. Another risk that I've taken. I'm a little bit all over, but I want to tell this part. This is very important before I get to Andrew. Is that I've actually closed on. We used to be open from Tuesday to Saturday. And now we close Tuesday, and that's to further our research to support new techniques and to support sustainable food and eating locally. And also for my staff, so they can connect to where I come from and who I am, so that they can get out and do the foraging like you saw in the video, so that the restaurant is just much more rich. So they feel what I'm feeling, and they're not just hearing it from me. That's like creating an amazing workspace. That's what this place is. Just from walking around, I can tell it's like that open source kind of research. And when you allow that for your staff to be able to express themselves and connect with the food that we're serving, the customer sees that. They feel it. They tell me that. And I think that is very important in a business, to make it a special place. Make it for them to have the connections that you're experiencing as a leader. And it expresses in the food, and like I said, people feel that. But Andrew, back to the farmer, we on the project Tuesday, we went to his farm, and he's showing us around, and he's talking crazy stuff. He's so biodynamic, just not organic. And he grows these amazing carrots that we all walk around with in the restaurant, and we love them and we eat them. But I asked him, why do you do this? And he basically said, I'm a better husband, I'm a better father, I'm less depressed, and I have much more clarity. I want to offer that to everybody. Everyone should experience and understand that is true. When you eat well like that, you feel this way. And through my staff and my family, we are doing this. And it's so important. It's kind of like a mission for me right now. Because to me, we talk so much about the environment and polluting of the environment, but they allow it. Like, there's so much out there of polluting of food, that what we put in our body it's not good for us. But eating this way, going back to local, seasonal food, is going to make a smarter country, a healthier country, and it's going to be better, and it's going to build jobs and community. One of the things I've been doing is, I talked about the carrots. I serve them in my son's lunch. He knows, is this a good carrot, Dad, or a bad carrot? Like, what one is it? And the staff, when we go out foraging, we're grabbing the carrots. So I've been doing, we call it Carrots for Kids. 2 weeks ago, I went to Sick Kids and just gave out carrots to kids, because Andrew feels, even though it's not a great market, he should be there. That's the synergy of where he should be in Ontario. And that's amazing. And he approached one of the kids at Sick Kids who was going through chemotherapy. And it just hit hard with me. And he went up and he didn't know if he was overstepping. He gave a carrot to the kid, and the nurse said, "Oh, he hasn't eaten in 4 months." And real food. They went up the elevator, came back down, and he ate all the carrots. So I felt like I needed to be there because I know the effect that my son has with the carrots. A lot of talk about carrots. Carrots for kids. Anyone want to invest? Nationwide, I see this vision. But there's so much more to this restaurant, and it's just, I'm still on this journey. You can tell, like, being up here speaking, it's new for me. I'm a chef. I'm crazy. I think about crazy stuff. But I have staff that control that. And I have a wife that puts up with it. Basically, I'm here today because I've taken risk. And I followed my curiosity. Risk is about a journey. It's about having support. It's about learning. It's many things. I'm just proud to be where I'm at, and I want to push forward. There's a bigger picture here, and I want to show a video of where I'm at now. Love that. I love that. That was just on one day after the fire, and I needed to do that. That's my story on risk, and I hope that someone got something out of this. And it's about, like I said, it's just following, basically having courage, following your guts, and doing something that makes sense. If you follow something that makes sense, and I'm so lucky to have something that is so kind of a business that means something, and that I feel like there's more to go, and it's so rewarding. I don't think I've looked at my bank account in 3 weeks. That's the kind of guy I am, but I should start. That's it.